Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Friday follow-up in the continuing journey of accountability. I'd like to have an honest conversation with you. Knowing what to do and actually doing it are two different things. And there's many ways that we can share our feelings and get support, many ways of communication that we have available to us. But deep down, we're the only ones who can control the conversation. We're the only ones that can control how we use information. Last night, I was getting ready to go to our chapter meeting, and I was trying to make a decision on whether I was going to weigh in or not, because I had been away from the chapter for about 3 weeks because I've been out going to SRDs and various other commitments going on with my hectic schedule. And I knew I was going to the meeting regardless, even though I knew I had a gain, but because the Bill of Rights and the rules are that I don't have to weigh in, but I do want to go and get that support. I was trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to do this? What do I really want to do? And I know in having these honest conversations and talks with folks when I've done Q&A at various TOPS events, that seems to be a discussion that needs to be fully engaged, because we're a weight loss group. Why do you mean you don't want to weigh in? And I've had some great conversations with groups of TOPS members on this. So I'm playing this in my mind as Ann and I are driving to the meeting. So one thing is, how did I know that I was going to have a gain? Despite the fact that I was traveling for these past few weeks, I had access to a scale, but I didn't weigh myself in. But I knew I was in trouble because of when I went to get dressed and I went to put a pair of pants on and they were extremely tight. So that reminded me, as one of the things we were talking about at these Q&A sessions, was we have ways of keeping ourselves accountable. So I knew, wow, I knew I've been struggling, but this is a sign. So that sign kind of brought me to reality that, wow, I am getting out of control, because even though I've been weighing in every week prior to this gap that I had, I was showing gains, but my clothes still fit okay. So I decided to weigh in because I wanted validation, confirmation. I wanted proof that my pants didn't shrink in the wash. And sure enough, after being away from chapter for 3 weeks, I had gained 3.4 pounds. So the scale helped me keep accountable. It validated what I knew, that other ways that I'm using to try so hard to keep myself accountable worked. And this is just an example of what's been happening when we can just sit down and talk. Because when we have these conversations, and remember, I said we control what we take in and interpret. But when we have these conversations, we can discover that maybe the message wasn't really heard, because we can hear things, we listen, but do we really get it? And that's what I meant about knowing what to do and actually doing it are two different things. I know what I'm supposed to do. Actually, to be honest with you folks, I know what I'm not doing. I know I'm not walking. And if you go back in my president's messages, in my blogs and past video chats like this, I always wanted to keep my steps up, and I was walking. I walked every day, but I haven't been doing that. Whole host of reasons. Some could be just brushed off. Well, it's cold in Maine, but we got Doug in Canada walking all the time, right? So, I mean, we can, again, remember, this goes to how we use information that we get from all these different sources, is how we use it, right? So I'm internalizing, well, I can't do this, I can't do that. Knowing and doing, two different things. And I think with these conversations, these talks that we can have, it kind of helps us put things in perspective. That's why with so many forms of communications, you would think we would be right on top of our game. But again, realizing that we make the decision on how we use information and nobody else, there is something inside that you have to trust, that gut reaction, if you will, on how we use information. One of the workshops that I attended at a SRD gave an opinion. It was an opinion. She felt that this was important to use this type of regimen for a meal plan. There was a lot of good things in that, but it wasn't meant for everyone. Again, we control how we use the information. I think sometimes what's happened, and I kind of think about in my conversations with my father and grandfather, who had a real good perspective on how our society has evolved, because they remember how long it took to get messages out, quote, back in the day. They didn't have Instagram, Facebook. Yeah, they had phones, but it was on a party line, and you had to probably you probably had a hard time getting a message through. They waited for telegrams for news from families across the country. It was not instant information. And both my dad and my grandfather would say, well, if we can get hold of people right away now, why is everyone so confused? It's a great question. And it could be because maybe we're getting way too much information too quickly. And nobody takes time to slow down and talk. Conversations are probably the most powerful tools that we have in talks. As an example, at the chapter meeting that I attended last night, when I was putting on my tight pants and had to go to another size up, which just bothered me to no end. It kind of gave me a wake-up call. We went in and we had the weigh-in, we had the roll call. There was great losses for the week. And some of us who had some gains to admit to asked, what did you folks do? And our leader just had an issue of Tops News in front of her, just asked questions, and we all had an honest conversation. Knowing what to do and actual doing it are two different things. But it was a great meeting. It got me motivated again. Now, I know that sounds silly, folks, that you'd think I would be constantly motivated, but if you read my blog today, when it gets released later on, knowing and doing are two different things. And weight loss and getting a healthier lifestyle is a challenging event. And we shouldn't be doing it alone. And we have to have these honest talks. That's why every month we have a session called Tops Talks, where we have a conversation with a subject matter expert. And sometimes the best part of these meetings is the Q&A after the fact, when I get a chance to talk to the subject matter expert using your questions and comments and have a dialogue. I'm hoping that at some point we can just have these events where it's just an open Q&A session. Now, I know we can't get everybody involved at the same time, but there's nothing that stops you at your chapter meeting, sitting around a table or on a circle or whatever, and just having an honest face-to-face conversation. That is probably could be one of your better programs. Or better yet, have a video or something read out of TOPS News to stimulate the conversation or to literally get the ball rolling. I've been fortunate to do two Q&A sessions recently. One of them went about an hour, another one went almost an hour and a half, where once that first question is out, it just keeps on going. And it's important to me because I learned what people listened, heard, but maybe didn't quite understand. And it's a chance to clarify, not change, but just try to help that member understand what that particular question or rule or whatever it was that was. And we had this great discussion on, the most two important weigh-ins of a year, if you want to participate in recognition programs, is the first and the last. But to really bring this home was the questions that I got were with like, I don't want to be a COPS. I'm close to my goal. I'm happy, and I just don't want that pressure. Now we can have a whole nother conversation on whether or not it's pressure packed to maintain COPS status or not. Trust me, both ends of the spectrum, and everybody is right with their feelings when it comes to this. My personal opinion on this is that when I had my COP status and I'm driving to that chapter meeting and I knew I had a gain, but I knew I was in my leeway, I was relaxed. I wasn't tense because that's what that range was for. And even though I had a gain, I was still in the black and I was fine. But when I didn't have my COP status and I'm driving to the TOPS meeting, I'm thinking, well, I'm going to step on that scale. I'm going to have a red mark. I have a gain. That made me more anxious. So for me, COPS was a safe place. But for some members, they feel the pressure. And when I had that question, I just kind of remembered how I felt, and I shared my personal opinion, and she shared hers. And she said, I just don't want it. And, I said, I got the perfect answer. You don't have to. Where are you now? She says, I feel the best that I ever felt in my whole life. I said, then why do you want to challenge that? If you're where your healthcare provider wanted you to be, you're fine. You don't have to do that. You're happy. And it was like a light bulb came up. She says, really? I go, yes. It's what you want to do, given with all the information. So we had a conversation with everybody else could hear. And that really drove the point home is, why do we get obsessed with some of these things that really doesn't really pay kind of influence or may have an adverse effect on what we really want. We just want to be healthy. We just want to enjoy our lives. And I talk about that in my blog today, which is just another way of sharing my thoughts. But if it's just one way, right, which is kind of it's happening right now, I'm talking to you and you'll probably be making comments and stuff like that. But you have to have these types of conversations with your other TOPS members. I dare say with non-TOPS members, because conversation, like I said, is probably the most important tool that we have, because it's a way of helping us understand. Because, got you a little secret, folks, not every TOPS member, that includes me, knows everything about how we need to survive in this society, to get a healthier lifestyle, or just get by day by day. So I hope you get what I mean about having an honest talk, because last night I had to have an honest talk with myself. And I love a good debate. And when I debate myself, I decide who's going to win. And I decide, you know, this guy or this guy, right? I'm debating myself. And I think we during the discussion last night decided that I've got to get walking again and I've got to watch my carbs. And yeah, I weighed in last night. I didn't have to, but I wanted that validation to prove that my pants didn't shrink. But if I had stayed away from the meeting saying, boy, if I go, I'm going to have to weigh in, I would have missed out on a great conversation last night. A great conversation where it was just talk among TOPS members, finding out what went wrong, what went right that week, to get motivated to get me to the next week. So yeah, I had a gain. Not happy, but I'm happy that I had this conversation with myself and the conversation with you. And I challenge you all to have a talk at your next chapter meeting or with your next TOPS friend or with somebody to talk about something that you may or may not understand or something that you're passionate about. I don't care what method you use to get information out, but nothing's ever going to beat having that face-to-face conversation with somebody that you can trust. We have control on how we use the information. Knowing and doing are two different things. And I'll see you next Friday.